My name is Jeff, and I'm on a quest to see every collectible known to man. Where will I go? What will I see? Everything. This is my life in toys. So we begin our journey in my life in toys here at the Toy Fan Addict, vintage toys and collectibles. And already you can tell this place is going to be good. Just look at the front door. They have giant cardboard cutouts of Cobra Commander, Indiana Jones, Darth Vader, awesome posters, there's Bumblebee, there's a lot in this store. I'm excited to take you inside, so without any further ado, let's go on in. And here we are. This place has everything. Now, I grew up with this Iron Man figure. Did anyone else out there have the old Iron Man wave from '94? We have some classic X-Men figures. I had that bendable Spider-Man growing up. Marvel Secret Wars, and a whole lot more. This case already is awesome, and we're just getting started. And there's a trading card drawn by my favorite artist, John Romita. And look, even the floor is covered in comic books. This place is awesome. Look, there's a Neil Adams cover right there. So there's plenty of comic books. There's all sorts of stuff here. We had the Phantom. We have the Hobgoblin. I believe that was the Hobgoblin, or was that Chuck Norris? But folks, that's what I love about old school vintage collectibles. They're a trip to the past. We can go back in time to 1992 and see this Batman the Animated Series carrying case. But there's more. We can go back even further if we will. Love the old magazine rack. Had to take a second to read all those titles. And this place is in the spirit, the festive spirit of Halloween. We have a Freddy Krueger doll. I believe that's an old Matchbox doll. And speaking of old, check out this Beetlejuice snake mask. Let's take a closer look. I grew up with the old Beetlejuice toys back in the, well, 90s is when I was playing with them. But I loved those toys. Whew, that is a rough Beetlejuice mask. Is that Beetlejuice or Ronald Reagan? I can never tell. And there's Mr. Burns. So let's take a look inside of this case. There's a lot of horror merchandise. Pennywise the Clown, the Wolfman, who's got nards allegedly, Frankenstein or Frankenstein, depending on how you pronounce it, and the Munsters. Not the Rob Zombie version, but the classic Munsters. And we're all thankful for that. We have Wild West toys, we have Gundams, we have a lot so far, and those are Robotech in the back. Now, this is the part of the video where my old pal Articulated Chad would love it, G.I. Joe. I never realized that Tony the Tiger and Batman hung out with the G.I. Joe crew, but it makes sense. Now, the Kenner Superpower toys are a line that I'd like to get into, but they're just too expensive for my blood. Early NECA, like Gears of War. Ooh, I love it. More G.I. Joe. These are the original scale G.I. Joe. Anybody watching out there not realize that G.I. Joe started out much bigger? Let me know in the comments. Ah, Skeletor. That's a badass statue if you ask me. These all look great. I have nothing but love for Masters of the Universe, but those look even better than usual. I wonder how old that Batman statue is. I should have brought it home with me. Not interested in this horse stuff, but I am interested in Indiana Jones. And, well, I already have all those figures. But this was a relic of the past. The Beatles Flip Your Wig board game. What did that say, 1965? Whew. Well, I found him. That's the end of the video, folks. We found Waldo. So thanks for watching. We'll be back next time with more and more of these toys. Let's keep going, shall we? Barbie and Midge and Ken and Alan and dinosaurs. That's a crossover I'd watch. That's the only way I'll watch the Barbie sequel, if there's dinosaurs involved. Now this corner was cool. We had some really old school stuff and some not so old school stuff, like these Dick Tracy lunchboxes from the 90s. That Ringo Starr, though, he's gotta be up there. Just like these old shampoo bottles. Ah, a Fantastic Four Barbie from the Jessica Alba Fantastic Four. There's a relic nobody wants. Hey, there's me. So this was sad. This was a bag from the final day of Toys R Us. I believe it said June 18th of 2018. I have that Captain Kirk ornament. I don't know if I have Spock, but I know I have Kirk. The Star Trek shelf is pretty cool looking. They got glasses, they have statues, figures, vehicles, you name it. Again, this store has it all. They even have King Kong. And Godzilla. There we go. Ooh, Godzilla Classic Box. I always like classic Godzilla. What's your favorite design? I'll take that box set. You get everybody for the price of one. Sorry, folks. I got distracted looking at these awesome toys. We can move away from the doctor. He's not that awesome. But did you see they have an RPG here? They have everything. Let's step into the world of Jurassic Park for a moment, shall we? And let's leave. That's a big one. Gotta love the Natty Ice sign, too. Here we go. Now I'm home. Star Wars. And look at this display from the Power of the Force 2. This thing is awesome. You're on the Death Star. You got the giant 90s buff figures fighting. You got Luke in his X-Wing, which is funny because that's his snowspeeder gear, but whatever. We didn't care back in the day. And we even have Vader. This thing is cool. I think this would be the one thing I'd like to take home if I could. But there's more Star Wars down here. We have the vintage and the 90s land speeders, snow speeders, micro machine sets, and a whole lot more. Like the 90s AT-AT Walker, which is what I had growing up. And yes, we called it AT-AT Walker. The Power Rangers shelf is always a place near and dear to my heart, but I already own all the Power Ranger stuff. I never got rid of my childhood toys, so it's nice to look back, see if I can find anything cool, but my mom bought it all for me back in the day. And yes, I have the White Tiger Zord. Let's see what we got down here. Ah, the Command Center accessories. That was a cool playset. Again, I still have mine. I even had that Power Rangers candy container that was on the left, that Blue Ranger. Yep, I was lucky. Never collected Zippos, but they do have these James Bond ones, and well, you know, I'm a sucker for 007. Let's take another look at the G.I. Joe quadrant while we're up here. We have helicopters, we have... What the hell? Is that a space shuttle? I gotta ask Articulated Chad what all these things are. These are pretty cool. But let's take a look at some of the classic figures. They even have the old Street Fighter the movie G.I. Joe figures. What a crossover. What a movie. What a... I'm trying. I did not like that film. Let's take a look at these Transformers. They are more than meets the eye. And they're bright and colorful and pretty cool, too. Who do we got over here? Let's take a look in the case. I see a Bumblebee. I never liked those Transformer toys that just did like one transformation. You like pulled it open and it was done, or you just flipped up a head or something. I always thought those ones kind of sucked. Here's the vintage Star Wars case. It's kind of hard to see, but they got tons and tons of figures, both loose and carded. So let's turn around and go back to the Star Wars section. Folks, we are like maybe halfway through this store. It's a big one. There's a lot in this store. Like a land speeder that you can ride. I remember the Toys R Us near this location, which we have a video of. Man, they had like a dozen of those. Now let's take a look up above to the stars. We see all kinds of cool ships. We also see Dorothy. I guess that's what's over the rainbow. Star Wars. Now I'm taking a trip down memory lane to 90s Star Wars toys. All those green and red boxes, they're taking me back. I had that. Hell, I even had that T-16 Skyhopper. Gotta love those vintage 12-inch figures. I do love how they had some new style clothing on a vintage Luke Skywalker. It really tied it together. They even had a lot of these carrying cases, 4 to be exact, and they all have Wedge Antilles. And these are all Cantina different sets. Or different Cantina sets, I should say. And this is a big walker. It's bigger than a dog. Well, the original one's bigger than some dogs, but I digress. Let's take a look in the case, shall we? Ooh, Star Wars on Laserdisc. And vintage, well, that's not a vintage carrying case, that's a 90s carrying case. I didn't get into the pod racing toys, but I played the pod racing video game. Let me know your opinion on pod racing down below. But I kind of checked out on the episode 1 toys. I had 2 of them, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, but there were a lot to choose from back in the day. Star Wars laser tag is kind of like the perfect marriage of technology and toy. Imagine playing Star Wars laser tag in this $900 X-Wing suit. You'd at least look cool. That right there was a British vintage X-Wing. Do you know the difference? Tell me down in the comments. I know. Even Baby Yoda's here. Even Baby Yoda. Let's see, what do we got over here? We have lightsabers, we have, oh man, the Death Star double take Micro Machine set. This was awesome. I mean, it had all the scenes from the first movie. You could make this Millennium Falcon like orbit the planet, and you had all these little scenes. I was so jealous back in the day. I wanted this for the 3 3/4 inch scale, but they never made it. They did make this though, the Comtech reader, which was the thing of nightmares. It's based on a Gillette razor, and you put the little chips on the figure, and you put the figure on that, and then they talk, or they try to sound like talking, but it is what it is. Ooh, a full-scale Spider-Man. I hope we get to look at that soon. You notice that Rey is in this random junk? Yeah, nobody wants her. Not even the Star Wars section. They have kicked her out. She's next to the old lady and the drunkard. Ooh, what's down here? McDonald's toys. Nice. We got Flintstones and the Lion King. There's Simba, I think. He looks too happy to be Mufasa. Hey, and there are my Knuckles. I liked Big Bird as a kid. I never had a ride-along Big Bird. Did you? I'm not supposed to touch Big Bird. Plus, at this point in my life, I think I'm a little too big for it. I'm not too big for a Batman Superman cookie jar, though. I think everybody would enjoy that. We have some Hulk collectibles. We have Amigo Spider-Man. He fell down. Ah, the Shadow Taxi Cab. I can't believe that's a vintage toy. I remember when that movie came out. Ooh, the Green Hornet. Yeah, better than the Seth Rogen version. Hi, Paddington. I didn't know the Sugar Bears had an album. I knew Lionel Richie did, but I don't own that one. Ooh, Teddy Ruxpin. My cousin had one of these. It was kind of weird. We used to listen to other tapes in it. Now, here we go. The 90s Star Wars wall. Though Power of the Jedi's from like '01, I believe. But you get where I'm going with this. So we have Comtech figures. We have Power of the Force 2 figures, both green and red card edition. This is Star Wars that I grew up with. I'm going to make a video on this maybe at the end of the season. I even collected the '02 line, not the '05 or '06 line as much, but they even go up to the more modern stuff. God, I remember that Han Solo. I didn't want him because the straps didn't come off. But then again, I was a kid. Anybody watch the Clone Wars on Cartoon Network, the original one, the 3-minute shorts? I thought that was a pretty good show. So even though this place is wonderful and magical, they can't get rid of these figures, so it is what it is. It is modern Star Wars after all, but I'll save that for another day. That Boba Fett's pretty cool. Ugh, Reva. So this was a solid line of Star Wars figures. I really liked these back in the day. They had better articulation, more detail. This Luke Skywalker was a personal favorite. I mean, his hand was removable, he had a working holster, his lightsaber was metal. This was pretty much like the toy of all toys back in the day. I loved this Luke. This Emperor, didn't really have him, but he doesn't look great. Not everything was perfect back in the day, but not everything was terrible either. Comtech Han Solo is a personal favorite of mine. I have way too many of those. I still love it to this day. It was the first Han Solo that I had with a working holster, though I think the Hoth one from the 80s had a holster in quotations. Starship Troopers and E.T., what do they have in common? They both have overpriced toys. This is supposed to be Denise Richards, but it doesn't look like her. And this up here is supposed to be E.T., and it looks just like him, I guess. Maybe sunburnt E.T., and that E.T. has eczema. I'm glad there's E.T. for everybody, but not for me. Ooh, Chucky. I haven't thought of this Chucky in forever. And, something's up with this E.T. But I gotta give this store credit. All of the plushes have been certified clean, so anybody that's worried about anything doesn't have to. Moving past the Fisher-Price into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There we go. We got the Technodrome, excuse me. I had the 4 turtles as a kid, but that was about it. Tell me if you're a turtle collector in the comments below. But I do love this playset. I'm a big fan of playsets. We need more of them. As a collector, it's nice to have one. Your stuff can populate it, and it feels a little more, I don't know, authentic. Let's take a look at this turtle box set. Featuring Leonardo, my favorite turtle. I should have just bought this, because then I'd have all the Leonardo figures, but then you gotta buy 3 more to get the rest of the team. I did want this giant Spider-Man. This is a pretty much 1-to-1 scale Spidey. It's awesome. Look at that. It's based on the Ultimate Spider-Man design because there's no webbing on the sides of the arms. That's the difference in the suit, but it's still cool. Just like this Master Sword. I do dabble in gaming collectibles, so it's nice to see this shelf here. I've even got back into vintage gaming. But this is my life in toys, so let's keep looking at toys, shall we? Oh, these are Funko Pops. Ew. I'm sorry. But they're everywhere. You know what? Let's just go back to video games, shall we? We have the PS2, the Xbox 360. Ooh, Halo figures. I collect those. What do we got down here? Oh, up to PS4. Ooh, and PS1. It's weird that you get more excited for an old system than a new one, but Well, nostalgia like a mofo. Hey, Chief. I don't know anything about Bakugan or Yu-Gi-Oh! I do know about Pokemon, though, but that is a relic of my past. They even have Lord of the Rings, so if you and your fellowship want to go out and start collecting, well, they have Lord of the Rings figures for you, too. The My Buddy doll is a thing of nightmares because it looks like Chucky. Just, no thanks. Let's see what else they have above here. Nope, we don't need more My Buddy. They do have a Cher doll. Do you believe that I didn't even buy it? I would hope so. I don't know much about Cher. But I do know a lot about Ghostbusters, and this is the Ghostbusters Firehouse, and it is pretty cool. No, folks, I didn't take it home with me. I know you're surprised. I was strongly considering this, though, the Winston Venkman 2-pack from Ghostbusters 2, featuring a Scoleri brother on the box. I don't have any real Ghostbusters toys from the 80s. I do have the re-release stuff, but the original is always going to be better. And we have the original wrestling superstars from LJN, the WWF figures. We have the Hasbro follow-ups. You can see how much smaller they got, but they made a ton of figures. And then up here, I don't know what these toys are. Tell me down in the comments below. Enlighten me. Thundercats, He-Man, and Funko Pops, including, ooh, Bucky O'Hare. I used to like Bucky O'Hare as a kid. This dragon was pretty cool, too. I don't know what he's from, but I liked him. There's the A-Team, but Mr. T's sold out, which makes sense. I pity the fool who doesn't have Mr. T. They even have this awesome Lego display up front. More on Legos later in the season, folks. Do not miss out on the giant Lego DeLorean and a whole lot more. Let's make sure we don't miss anything in this store because it is packed to the gills. We have Batman the Animated Series figures. There's Red Batman and Catwoman. Who else do we have? We have Maroon Batman and Gold Batman and Bluish Gray Batman and the Riddler. And there's Michael Keaton and the Orange Suit Batman. I had that one as a kid, the Neon Batman. I actually remember getting that one quite vividly. You know, for a Dark Avenger of the Night, he wore a lot of bright colors back in the day. Oh well. Dick Grayson. Awesome. Didn't buy him either. But I should have bought Bob the Goon. I messed up big time. Ooh, the Phantom. I like the Phantom. Let's check out these wrestling buddies. The only Brodus Clay you'll ever see anywhere. We also have Sheamus, and I guess that's supposed to be Randy Orton, but they didn't do a good job on the face. Sorry, Orton. Speaking of faces, those old 90s Marvel figures, those ladies have rough faces. Sue Storm, Rogue, they have like chunky necks and dots for eyes. It was a time. Taking one last look through the wrestlers, we have some classic WCW stuff, we have some modern stuff, and here we have an Avengers figure. Did you guys know that the Avengers toys were of a much smaller scale than modern Marvel? The only place you could get 6-inch Avengers figures was Walmart. The Thing, Teen Wolf, Pee-wee's Playhouse. The 80s are alive forever. God, what a tiny Rey Mysterio. We have a Castle Grayskull, World of Simpsons figures, more He-Man, more Masters of the Universe, and a van. But we're not by a river, so whatever. Voltron or Megazord? Who you got? Now, the Angels have seen better days, so we're just going to move on. But this Kiss machine was pretty cool, and we have a, what was that, a Kondaroo machine? I don't know what that one was. Ah, good old Buzz Lightyear. In the giant spaceship he came in. We have some vintage Disney stuff as we're checking out of the store. I think that's Mulan and Beauty and the Beast plushes. And over here, they had random parts. I believe this is Star Wars. I think this is, what, Land of the Droids or something like that. We have a weird colored Batmobile. See if you can identify the most parts. Whoever knows the most parts wins a prize. That random Padme figure. I'll go get you that doll and mail it to your house. So let's leave the Cloud City car. Let's look up here one last time at the Darwin Cook statue and the Incredible Hulk thing. And Rob Liefeld. Oh, that's Jim Lee. Captain America. So folks, what did you think of the first episode of My Life in Toys? That was an awesome store. It had everything. It had nostalgia, it had cool toys, it had video games, you name it, that store was awesome. And now folks, one thing I want to say about this series, nobody asks me, nobody pays me to feature their stores. I like what they do, and I want to spread the word on cool vintage toy stores. So if you're a toy store owner, if you sell comic books, if you sell collectibles, and you want WCBS to feature your store on My Life in Toys, well, all you got to do is shoot us an email to info@worldclassbullshitters.com, and we will line something up. Remember folks, this series is going to take me around the world. And hell, this store wasn't even in my neighborhood. So we're starting off strong. So join me back here next week for another episode of My Life in Toys. Where will I go? What will I see? Everything. I've been your host, Jeff Hicks, and I'll be back next time with more. But until then, be smart, be safe, be cool, and keep on collecting.